Hey YouTubers, welcome back to my channel. I'm insatiable-k. In today's video, I'm going to be going through how to set up your home CCTV system so that you'll be able to view it remotely anywhere in the world. All coming up next, right after this. One of the first things that I wanted to know about my surveillance system is whether or not I had the ability to connect to the internet remotely. Basically, would I be able to view my home security from anywhere around the world? Now, I realize not everyone is tech savvy. I've learned that many of the things that we find simple to those who don't use computers on a daily basis, maybe like trying to learn another language without extensive experience. Now, I've watched many tutorials online which show you how to connect your CCTV system to the internet. Before we start, you'll need the following. You'll need to be connected to the internet. That means you'll need a live internet connection. You'll also need a router. You'll need an Ethernet cable. You'll also need a DVR box with the ability in their functions to be viewed remotely. You'll also need a monitor or a TV to be able to check your settings and make sure everything's working. The first thing you want to do is log in into your DVR using your username and password provided by the manufacturer. Now, if the DVR has already been previously configured, you'll need to use your admin login information. Now, every DVR box is different. As you can see on mine, will be completely different to what yours will be, but the principles are all the same. You'll want to select the menu that states Network Settings. In this section, you will be able to assign an IP address to the DVR. Now, this will be an internal IP or internal static IP address. In the UK, this usually begins with 192.168.1. something. I'd suggest using these settings to get started, because you could always change them at a later date. Make sure all your settings are correct. Settings like your IP address, make sure the subnet mask is the same. You want to check your gateway, your TCP port, which is the transmission control protocol, your UDP port, which is your user datagram protocol, and your HTTP port. Once all this is done, you'll need to configure your browser, the security settings in your browser, in order to download the DVR web services. Now, if you're using Internet Explorer, in order for you to connect to your DVR internally, that is, or externally within your network, you need to go to your browser settings and download, or make sure that it allows for you to download the ActiveX. All you have to do is just go to the Tools section. On the Internet Options, you go to Security. In this tab, you'll see the button that says Custom Level at the bottom. You want to make sure this is clicked, and when you scroll a bit further down onto the options, there'll be an option that states Download Unassigned ActiveX Control. You want to make sure this is on either Prompt or Enable instead of Disabled. Like I stated before, this will make sure when you access your DVR, that allows you to remotely access and configure your DVR. Now, you can go ahead and do the same for any other ActiveX settings as well. Now, once this is done, you'll want to close down the Internet Explorer browser. Make sure it restarts, or you can also restart your computer. Once it's restarted, just go back to the settings and make sure the settings have taken change. The next step will be connecting your DVR internally using your Internet Explorer. You should now be able to connect to your DVR internally within your network. This is a bit different to connecting to your DVR externally. You will use your static internal IP address and port number that you configured to your DVR in the beginning of this tutorial in order to do this. Now this would be something like 192.168.1.110 or 110 or, as an example. Now the next step from this would be port forwarding, so you'll need to go into your router for this option. I'm pretty sure in the UK most routers, to log in into your router settings, your admin settings, this option is going to be necessary in order to connect to your DVR from a remote location. Now if you were just to type your external IP address into your browser, your router is not going to be able to know which device you're trying to reach. There could be multiple computers and devices on that network, so you'll need to tell your router which device you want to connect to specifically by assigning a sort of map to all the ports that you have configured. Log in into your router using the gateway IP and the username and password that have been set to it. By default, most routers have the default gateway IP address set as 192.168.1.1. This is what you'll need to type in the URL bar of your browser. Once you've input that number, you'll need to click the enter button. A window should pop up asking you to log in. If you haven't made any changes, you should be able to put admin into the username and admin into the password. This is sometimes standard for some ISPs. If this is not the case for your DVR or for your router settings, you'll need to put in the exact details or exact username and exact password that you were provided or that you changed them to if you had changed them. Once those details have been entered, you'll need to log into your router. Now, once you're logged into your router, the next thing that you'll need to do, or the next step that you'll need to go ahead, is forward the ports. Now, remember guys, this is going to be different with your router settings. It's not going to look the same, and it's not going to have the same layout, or it's not going to have the same wording, but like I stated, the principles are still the same, so follow my steps and you shouldn't be able to go wrong. As you can see on mine, it's got the advanced section, so all the settings I need to input are going to be on that advanced setting. So if you've got an EE Brightbox router, this will be similar to yours. Now you want to find the window or tab that either called port forwarding or apps and gaming or network address translation, or most of the time it's always abbreviated as NAT. You want to go ahead and add a new port forwarding rule. Now some routers let you add a name. They've got a name field for where you can name your port, but EE doesn't allow, rather doesn't give you the option to add a name. Now if you remember on the previous step, your external ports can be 88 or whatever you set it to be on the previous step. Your internal ports will also be set to 88 or whatever you set it to be. The protocol will be both UDP and TCP, and the device IP will be the IP of the DVR. This can be found in your DVR settings under network settings. Once you've done this, you'll need to make sure that you've enabled the rule by checking the box Some of them are already enabled automatically once you've clicked save, but some of them you have to check a box and click save. If it doesn't give you the option, you'll need to repeat that same step for the TCP and the UDP that was set on the DVR. So you should have this. What you'll need to do next is find out what your external IP address is. You'll find the IP address of your network you're currently setting up the DVR by typing in on Google or whatever search engine you're using, what is my IP. Google normally tells you this on the search bar without going into another website. Once you've got this, you'll need to make a note of your public IP address. Now remember, this is the address that you're going to use in order to connect to your DVR whenever you're away from home or away from your business location. Now the last step is to see whether all the settings you've inputted into your router settings and your DVR settings are working. All that's left to do now is to go outside and try connecting to your external IP address. And once you've entered your external IP address, you want to make sure you add the colon and the 88, which is the port number, or whichever port that you decided to put into your settings. You should see the ActiveX web service. If it's the first time you're doing it, you should see the ActiveX web service prompt. If you're able to connect to your DVR internally, but you're unable to connect to it externally, it will be more than likely be a port forwarding issue. Just go back into your settings and make sure you see where you've gone wrong or where something needs changing basically in your settings, and then repeat the same step, and this should work. Thank you so much guys for watching this week's vlog. Please stay tuned for more life related content. Now if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I'd love for you guys to subscribe so you can be notified whenever I upload new content to the channel. Please click the like button if you enjoyed this week's video, and most importantly, don't forget to share it with your friends and family. For the rest of you guys, I'd love to hear your comments on the comment section below, down here, just to see if you found this information helpful or if you need any more advice regarding the topic. As always, I do my best to answer most of your questions. Thank you for watching. See you next time. 1. How many cameras will you need? One of the most important questions you need to ask yourself. Second question you need to ask yourself is, where will the cameras be placed? You'll need to know which angles the camera captures, so you do not want to have or leave yourself with a blind spot. Third thing I'd say is, what are the distance, width and depth you'll need to view on each camera. The fourth thing I'd say is, I'm pretty sure I've